So there's two types of enjoyments, broadly speaking. One is material enjoyment, now there's spiritual enjoyment. Material enjoyment means sense gratification, and spiritual enjoyment means experiencing the qualities of the soul. So one is conditional, sense gratification, you need something to stimulate the senses, and the other is unconditional. You simply experience what is already there, your spiritual nature. So, you have to judge a thing by its result. The result of material sense gratification is dissatisfaction. And the result of spiritual enjoyment is more spiritual enjoyment. Anandam buddhi vardhanam. It's an ever-increasing ocean of pleasure. Even though spiritual enjoyment is not conditional and you don't get it from someone or something, but there is a way to increase it. It is ever increasing actually, because it is based on love and loving relationships, not lust. Material sense gratification is based on lust, and it's actually mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that from contemplating the objects of the senses, lust develops, and anger, interestingly, not satisfaction. You think if lust develops and I'm lusty for something and then I get that something, I'll become satisfied. But no, anger arises. Why? Because of the frustration that comes from temporary enjoyment. We are eternal. We're eternal spiritual beings. We're not the body. If we were the body, then it would be a different story. When our bodily senses are satisfied or gratified in some sense gratification, then we become satisfied. But because we're not the body, we become frustrated with material temporary enjoyment. For example, you have a nice meal, eating, it tastes nice, filling your stomach, you're satisfied, and then it's over. After a little while, you need to do it again. It is temporary, it's frustrating for the soul. But because we don't really think about it in that way, we just think that's natural, that's the way it is. Nothing I can do about it, that's just how life is. I want to introduce the idea to you, or elaborate on the idea if you already know about it, that spiritual enjoyment is there, and it is a natural part of your life, of your very existence, and it's simply a matter of uncovering your consciousness, your original consciousness that's there. Developing your consciousness and uncovering your original consciousness. The enjoyment that's available on the material plane, that sense gratification that we hanker after so much, why we want so much money, why we're so desperate to have lots of money so we can get all the things that we want to satisfy our senses. That enjoyment is likened to a drop of water in the desert. And the reason why it's likened to a drop of water in the desert is because we're eternal. Compared to the spiritual enjoyment that actually exists eternally, it is there right now, but we're not experiencing it. We're conscious only of the body and the sensual needs. Compared to that eternal spiritual enjoyment, the greatest material sense gratification that you can have is compared to a drop of water in the desert. That drop of water is not going to make any difference, not going to quench anybody's thirst or help any plants to grow. But the good thing is that you can experience your spiritual joy. Basically now, you can experience it through a change of consciousness. Yeah, you can experience it through a change of consciousness. That's all that's required, because it's already there. You just need to change your consciousness. Changing your consciousness is kind of like finding that spiritual joy that's there. Changing your consciousness to the right consciousness, the required consciousness. the level of consciousness that's required. You remember it, you reawaken it. You've lost that connection. We've lost that connection. Okay? But we can reawaken that connection. And the beginning of that process is that you experience that spiritual joy. That's the beginning. And then you don't experience it permanently. You can remember and experience that under certain conditions, or when you're doing certain things, like mantra meditation with the Maha Mantra. But ultimately, so that's the beginning, to experience that joy. But ultimately, we see that people are on advanced levels, they can be fixed in that and experience it constantly. Yeah. And they can be in the material world just like a ripe coconut. A ripe coconut, it separates itself from the shell. The fleshy part of the coconut separates itself from the shell. And when you shake it around, you can hear this thing shaking. Similarly, someone who's advanced spiritually, they are attached, they are connected constantly, they're fixed in that consciousness and experiencing their spiritual joy. And they're actually separated from the material. Not that they're totally separated, like a spiritualist also has to eat. But they're not dependent on eating to be happy or to have that sense gratification from the eating. Similarly with other activities. An advanced spiritualist can even have sex. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had 10 children. He was on the highest level of spiritual development, completely detached from it, in the sense of being dependent on it for his enjoyment. But he did it because that was his situation. He was a grihastha, he was a householder, so he did that. But he was experiencing great spiritual joy by associating with God. So the process is called self-realization, and it starts and ends with you associating with God. And if you're interested to get more information about how to do that, then watch this video next and check out the link in the description.